So it's not your first time here in Denmark, here in Copenhagen. How do you find it here?
Well, you know, I came on most of my movies, I think. I love being invited in Denmark because I think it's a very elegant country. Smart people, very lot of class, I feel. Impeccable culture. People are polite and beautiful to look at. So frankly, it's one of my favorite countries in the world, and therefore I'm always delighted when I can come and try to help my movies.
Do you follow Danish films and what's happening here on the cinema scene?
Well, listen, not as well as I would like, and here is the reason. You know, I shoot my movies in. Not the last one, shot in Paris, but when I shoot, let's say in China, or when I shoot in northern Canada, there's no way I could find a place to see French films or European films. The only thing you see is blockbusters from Hollywood that I don't like to see. You know, recently I've been living 4 years in China, 2 years in northern Quebec. I go a lot to Los Angeles, where you cannot see any foreign movies anymore. It's a tragedy for our cinemas. And you know, in the old days, of course, I was very impressed to see how Danish cinema was booming with, you know, it's compared to many countries, it's a small country, but a small country with a voice and with exceptional filmmakers. You know, Sweden in the old days was leading, but now it's Denmark, and it shows that you know, a population of 6 million people can influence contemporary cinema. I haven't seen, unfortunately, the TV series you're producing, but I just know that I know that it's terrific. The problem I also have is, you know, when I scout in distant places, no time. When I cast and all that, I have long days. When I shoot, forget it. When I edit, I don't want. I already spend 12 hours in front of my images. I'm fed up with the images, and I don't look at other movies. It's only now, you know, after when I finish the movie, that I can catch up. In your breaks, so to speak. In my breaks. So it's every 3 years I have 6 months where I can see movies. So we're here to talk about your new film, Notre Dame brûle, in France. Do you remember where you were on April 15th? Sure. You know, my apartment in Paris is walking distance from Notre Dame. I can see Notre Dame from my balcony. That day, I was in a small house on the seafront in France, in a house where the TV was not working. And, you know, in those days, I wanted to listen to our president, had to do a speech. We were in the middle of a sort of revolution, you know, insurrection, with the yellow vest. And it was a very tense moment. And while I was listening on the radio, waiting for that speech, I heard that there was smoke over the cathedral. And of course, as it's a monument that had big importance for me when I was a kid, because I discovered medieval art in Paris. I was coming every week to Paris. We were stopping in a railway station that is close to Notre Dame, and the first thing I would do with my mother is to go inside the cathedral. She was not a believer, but she liked lighting a candle for an old cousin that was not well, you know, that kind of thing. And I was so impressed because my home was small, and here it was beautiful. There was the smell of incense. There was the organ playing in the distance. It was magical. I am not a believer at all. I'm a perfect atheist, but I have great respect for places where people like to go when they look for a solution for a problem. Sacred places I love, whatever the religion. You know, when I did 7 years in Tibet, I was fascinated with when I was scouting, to go from monastery to monastery in those places close to the sky, very high altitude, and people praying with those deep chants. I was thrilled. And then I realized that maybe because I have no faith, I respect the faith of others. I respect sacred places, whatever the religion. So it's why, you know, this is not the first time I'm attracted by something that has to do with religion. When I did the Name of the Rose, for instance, I rebuilt a monastery. I also put it on fire. But 7 years in Tibet is also the same. You know, I'm attracted with that level. It gives the movie another level. You don't have only a show. You have something that strangely touches my heart, but your heart, I mean, as viewers. So this is why I like that genre.
But I remember I saw the fire in Notre Dame on the news, and it touched me really. I was crying while I was looking at it. So what emotions went through you while you saw it on the news as well?
First, I was, of course, devastated. I was convinced that it was going to collapse. And I was not that worried for the future because, you know, I lived in Germany several times, and I like a place like Dresden, for instance. Dresden was flattened. But then now...
They rebuilt it.
Yes, they rebuilt it.
Yeah.
And the cathedral, the museum, you have pain to remember that it was flattened. So you can rebuild a cathedral. Yet, what you cannot rebuild is the feeling that it has been standing there, identical, for 9 centuries. And of course, I went through that emotion. I was also very worried that people would get killed. I was also worried that the whole of the city island, which is this island in the middle of Paris, would catch fire. And that was the big worry of the firemen as well. It was not only the cathedral, it could have been one of the most charming districts in Europe to see it disappearing. I feel also that without thinking about it, I felt somewhere that it was like a symbol of the permanence of Western civilization. And you know, because I live so much in foreign countries, I'm a French guy living away from France. So I didn't react like a Frenchman, like a neighbor. I reacted on another level. I felt that symbol of the permanence and the success of Western world was in danger. And since the events of Ukraine, I'm receiving a lot of notes from viewers that are saying that was a premonitory signal, that what would believe impossible, a thing that would never happen, the collapse of a symbol of what we are, may disappear because we didn't pay attention enough that disaster may happen. So you know, I think it's why what you're telling me. I was just coming back from China when it happened, where I lived for 4 years. My friends in China are not especially Catholic, and they were crying, as you were. And my friends in Los Angeles spend their day in front of television and call me every 5 minutes. So you know, it's far above Paris. It's far above a French symbol. Keep in mind that this cathedral is the most visited sacred monument in the world. Because, you know, Paris is the #1 destination for tourists, and it's free. For Eiffel Tower, you have to pay, but for the cathedral, so most people go there because it's a lovely district to visit. There's a garden around. It's a pleasant place. It's visually very cute, and therefore everybody. I don't know a person who went to Paris and didn't visit Notre Dame.
No.
I guess you
C'est vrai. No, it's true. But as a filmmaker, was that an immediate thought? You know, you see Notre Dame burning and you think, oh, there's a movie, there's a story in there.
This is exactly what I felt. And I said to my wife, I said, do you imagine the number of cretins that are going to rush to make this movie? Because it was the perfect story. You know, a star, Notre Dame, a female star, beautiful, known for 9 centuries, the most famous star we had in France forever, attacked by the best demon, by the best villain. Charismatic, photogenic, dangerous, but we love fire when we get warm, when we see a light in the distance. Fire is wonderful, and fire devours you in a second. Therefore, you know, it's a perfect enemy. And then you have the good doctors who are trying to save the dying star, who cannot go, who cannot come. So you have the tension immediately. Immediately I could see it was a thriller, because on the radio I was hearing, and no fireman is around. And it has been running for an hour, and still no fireman. So you say, how is this possible? Well, the movie explains all that with the tension of a good suspense movie. Mm.
But you didn't do it.
No.
You didn't go ahead with it. So when did you get the idea? When did you decide that you wanted to do this film?
You know, in this industry of cinema, I have a few friends that I trust. And by the way, I meet people here that I can trust, you know, real film buffs. Therefore, when a person of that nature calls me for a project, it's becoming serious for me. And the owner of Pate, which is I think the largest distributor in Europe, called me and said, he said the following, he said, he knows that I don't like to make the same movie over and over again, therefore he had something original to offer me. And what was original was, he said, you never did a documentary, would you be interested to supervise the editing of a movie for large-scale cinema with archives and all this? That's not my style. I was not interested in that. But he gave me some documentation, in particular a very good article in the New York Times, a book that had been published. I'm talking almost a year after the event. And when I started reading, I couldn't believe why this drama happened. And I saw that my instinct of saying, there is a movie here, a great movie, spectacular, intense, with all the good ingredients for a large emotional show. I realized that it was even beyond, because there was even comedy in it, you know, there was slapstick comedy almost. And therefore, I got passionate. And I remember that evening at 3 o'clock in the morning, when I'd finished reading the documentation, I picked my phone and I said, no, I'm not going to call Jérôme Sédou at the middle of the night. But I called him the next morning at 8 o'clock. I said, I agree, but it's not going to be a documentary. It's going to be, you know, a fiction film based on true story.
But it's a funny, interesting mix of documentary and fiction. It's really hard to put in a box to define.
Thank you. Thank you for this definition, because precisely I don't like the idea of being put in a box, you know. It's why I've been doing films that are very different. You know, after a movie like The Bear, where my hero is a big animal, I did The Lover, with a charming young teenager. Just before, I had done The Name of the Rose. And then just before, a primeval movie called Quest for Fire. So I like to do something that I haven't seen, and I was very interested in making a movie which was a true story, which is something very appealing for an audience. But, you know, I already did true stories, like 7 Years in Tibet was a true story, Enemy at the Gates, true story, but the events were 50 years before. It's different when you do it 2 years after the event, where you have all the witnesses who can remember. And also the challenge of matching a few images that were shot by amateurs or by television station, but shot that have never been seen, of this huge fire, matching, I think, rather impeccably with the reconstitution, was also a challenge. It's the first time I'm doing something like that, and thank you for saying that it doesn't belong to a box or to a defined genre. It's a bizarre combination, but as long as it works, I'm happy.
So, you touched upon it just before. You have worked with fire. Fire is
Yes.
an element in your film. Quest for Fire, also the fire, Name of the Rose,
Right.
and now this big fire. You know, what are the challenges of working with fire?
Well, the challenge is more for the danger for the unit. It's always very, very dangerous fire. If you're using gas, you can have an explosion. You have people falling and getting burnt. I had almost a drama on Name of the Rose with Sean Connery. He took fire, you know, because he had some glue on his monk robe, and he became a torch. Yeah.
Oh my God, you put Sean Connery on fire.
Yes. This is the dream of many women. But no, but you know, that's the challenge, because visually, fire is a wonderful demon. It's so photogenic. If you, in your head, think of an apartment or something, and visualize now with a big fire. It's not the same image, you know, because you have danger and beauty, because fire is beautiful, and it's also roaring in a fascinating way. So you bring danger, and everybody understands this danger. A snake, or as well, or tiger, it's in that category, you know. You have a powerful enemy, but fire has that power of being so beautiful, so appealing. I was mentioning the other day, you know, the danger for firemen, young firemen, is what the firemen call the mosquito syndrome. Young firemen are so appealed by the fire that they go too close and they can get burnt. Mm-hmm. Yeah, because it's and this is the best villain. You know, Hitchcock always says that in order to make a good movie, you have to have a good villain. But if the good villain is so villain at the beginning, you don't trust him. It's too obvious. If it's a beautiful person, very charming, but then you know also that this beautiful person is a liar. It's someone that can destroy you in a second. Then you're interested with the character, and this is what fire is. And this is why, if you look at, in most movies, there is fire and car crashes and things like that. Fire is an actor that people want to have in their movie.
Very interesting analogy. So yeah, because when I look at your whole career and your whole body of work of films, and I was trying to see, is there a pattern in what you make or how you make your movies from the start, for Black and White and Quest of Love, Le Mans, the Bear, you know, everything, 7 Years in Tibet, everything, Name of the Rose. And I couldn't immediately see a pattern in your work.
I'm happy that you couldn't.
Do you see a pattern? Do you see something that continues as a constant in your works?
You know, it's embarrassing when I look at when I think of my movies. I know that I am so much in it. And there is so much my point of view, my ideas. You know, I'm a Final Cut director, therefore every movie is, should I say, me, and I hide it. So I'm hiding, trying to touch genres that are very diverse in order to hide the fact that I'm the same person who tells the same story. So you know, I've been very preoccupied when I was a kid by what's the importance of nature versus culture. I mean, genetics and learning. Because I'm not the son of my father. Well, of course I had a very energetic father, genetically. And I loved it, by the way, because I had a charming father who was not my father, and a very successful genetic father. So it was all fine. But before I knew that, I was very preoccupied by this, and most of my movies are about learning. A movie like The Bear is very similar to Name of the Rose, because it's a story of a young person, you know, a young bear, and the Name of the Rose is not the story of Sean Connery, but the story of Christian Slater. It is his point of view on the drama. And Quest of Fire is also, you know, mankind learned from woman. It's a learning process of my hero, etc., etc. I can go all the way. So here it's a little bit different, but it's my passion for history, for sacred also. But for me, learning is sacred. So you know, it's put together. And but I'm very pleased that people. And it'd almost be my problem. I remember a friend of mine said, "But your movie has so diverse. Who are you?" And I said, "I am the guy who wrote, cast, scouted, made the props, decided for the sets, shot the movie, directed the sound. I'm everywhere." So it's probably would be different if I was, you know, a director for hire, those kind of guys you call and they shoot, and whatever it is, they do their best to make a good movie. I had the privilege to choose my own project and do what I want.
I could definitely see that's very precise, I think. I mean, the theme of learning. And in all your films now, you're saying it, you're mentioning it. Why does that appeal to you? Is it the transformation that lies in learning? No. You know, I was worried when I was a kid, because I would have loved to be in a family where there would be a lot of books, for instance. My parents did their very, very best to educate me. I went to theater a lot and all that. So, but I was worried because I could see the privilege of the kids that had parents who were doctors, teachers and all that. It was not my case, you know. I had to struggle. And I didn't know if, and it's a big theme of Name of the Rose from the novel, is learning able to change who you have been made of? The answer is yes. but you know, I had to learn it, and I was so worried about that stories that are touching me are stories of people who know nothing and struggle in order to learn. And I remember a detail, you know, when I shot this movie, The Bear, I was attacked by my star. Usual stuff. Sometimes, you know, your star doesn't like you and wants to kill you. Sometimes a little more dangerous than others. Yeah, bears are less dangerous than some famous actors. Not my case on my movies, but it's dangerous. And I remember when I was under this bear who decided to kill me, I remember saying, I hope Umberto Eco was right saying that learning can save your life. Because I'd read a book about bear attacks. And I had learned how to quiet the beast, not to kill me. And I did exactly what I learned in the book, and I'm still here. If not, I'd be dead. So you know, learning culture can save nature. Do you project that also to the actors that you have been engaged with? I mean, from Brad Pitt and Sean Connery and others. You know, the key is to love your actor. On a film set, you cannot pretend. You have to be enthusiastic about your own project, because then you're followed by your unit and by the actors. And the worst that can happen is to pick the wrong protagonist.
But the question is always, when I meet actors or stars, is first question to me is, am I going to be happy to spend a year and a half of my life with this person? If the answer is, I'm not sure, I won't go. If, on the contrary, what happened with Brad, for instance, you know, I was not sure I wanted Brad in the movie, but he insisted to come and meet me at my hotel. I had pretended that I had a lunch appointment at 1 o'clock, and very fortunately, he also had a lunch appointment at 1 o'clock. So he came at 12. At 7:30 at night, we were still talking, and that was clear.
I think you're the only person in the world that would set up like a safety date to end the date with Brad.
No. We, you know, we have to protect the movie, and Brad was such a charming person, and a guy with a wonderful heart, and I acquired immediately great respect and desire to shoot with him, you know, you have to start. It's like a love affair. It's better to have a coup de foudre, as we say, to have this moment where it's obvious, you know, you're stricken by a storm, and keep in mind that, you know, with your protagonist, sharing so many hours in front of the camera, where you extract from the heart of your actor emotions, it requires something sincere. You know, you can fake for a dinner, you can fake for 3 dinners, but you cannot fake 6 months or a year of being together. You know, with Brad, we did all the promotion together. Brad had asked on the contract to be with me for all the promotion, and we were not listening to the question anymore. We were asking, do you remember that day? Because we had no time, but we had time to like each other, you know, and I think this is essential. And I'm happy when I look back. I only had one bad experience with a very naughty actor, F. Murray Abraham. I'm happy to name him on The Name of the Rose. Everybody hated him on the set. He was a despicable guy. A very good actor, though, that I do not regret, but it was difficult. And another actor on The Bear was, but you know, 2 out of thousands of people that had roles. And you know, on Notre Dame, I had very, very good actors from Comédie Française, very experienced actors. It was very smooth, and sometimes it was difficult and dangerous, but what I want to avoid is a dysfunctional set. If people respect each other, you know, for instance, I had one guy, one day, it was his first day, he started shouting on the set. I went to him, I said, if you want to shout, you go outside, yell, and then when you're done, you come back. Nobody shouts on my set. And then we work in harmony. I sound like a Buddhist now. But you know, I don't want to lose time in anger, in resentment, in jealousy. I feel the beauty of my job is to unite a group of people for a crazy project and have enthusiasm. When I shot in China, I had people in the middle of Mongolia in snowstorm carrying heavy equipment in mountains, singing. But it's beautiful, you know, because then it makes your life different. Because instead of hating people, you love people. Sure. And it makes your life more pleasant.
Do you have the same approach to when you're choosing your projects, choosing the films? Because there can be years in between the films you make. So how are you choosing the projects you're finally making a movie about?
Well, you know, it's a question that I never have this problem when I shoot a movie, because I'm entirely devoted to what I shoot. Then I have post-production. I'm entirely devoted to post-production. And what I realized is each film changes me, and the world is also changing. So the parameters are moving. And I don't want to decide 5 years in advance what I'm going to do next, because next is going to be a different world. We are in a different world today. What's happening, you know, with the pandemic, with the inflation, with Brexit, and with the war, and with the climate. I mean, we are in a different world. So I will adjust according to who I became in that new situation. And, you know, of course, I do the movie according to my personal enthusiasm. But I do the movie not for me. I do it to share. And I have to have an impression of who too I'm sharing. And this is why, you know, yesterday I had a terrific day. I went introducing this film to 3 different theaters where people are film buffs. The audience were great. And then I'm adapting to what I'm hearing. So it's part of my work, you know, to share with an audience of a country that is not mine, close to my heart, but a country that I respect. Therefore, it's all part of the process. I have not made yet a decision on what I'm going to start in a few weeks. And it's rather simple for me. After that long speech, I can tell you that it's only about enthusiasm and instinct. Oh. Yes, that I want. 3 years, 4 years, fine. Because I have to be enthusiastic every morning. If I get out of my bed saying, oh, what a fucking day I'm going to have. No, I was say, yeah, I'm going to London, we're going to record the music. I love that first violin and this Make Himself Free, and I love my composer, and I love being Abbey Road. It's a different life. And therefore, I don't count the hours. It's pleasure, you know, pleasure to share.
But is it also a question of keep challenging yourself? Because you've just recently made a TV series,
yes,
which is completely new for you.
Yes, but I didn't want to remain like an idiot. Listen, people look at television. So, all right, what's the difference? You know, well, that is 10 years that I knew that I had to touch it to understand. Do I like it? Am I adapted to it? Do I have the same pleasure? As a matter of fact, I got a lot of pleasure. I went extremely well with my actors. Patrick Dempsey still remains a wonderful friend. It was a very happy experience. I must say that, you know, my instinct is I love large screen. You know, this movie has been done in IMAX version, in Atmos. I like sound and all that. Nothing really replaces the experience of not only the big screen, not only to share with other people, but the only idea that, okay, you decide to go to cinema, therefore you decide to be captive to your choice, and you don't have the killing machine in your hand where it's after 1 minute you don't like the TV series, you go click, and you swap. Therefore it's not the same attitude towards a movie, therefore I definitely prefer a large screen. But also I have to realize that even when you have a great success in cinema, I have this experience now when some cinema play my old movies. So the question is, have you ever already seen that movie? Most of cinema go, have you ever seen this movie on a theater? 3 people. The rest, they've seen it on TV. And I'm talking of movies that I've done 40 years ago. So I do realize that television is a very powerful medium that you cannot avoid, and you shouldn't spit on television. After all, I'm still a person that likes the material thing, you know, the DVD or the Blu-ray. I like to possess it. Therefore, I have a huge collection, and one of my pleasure is to pick sometimes a silent movie, or sometimes an old classic from the 50s, or a recent movie that I haven't seen. But I see it on the TV, because I live mostly in my country place where the architecture doesn't allow me to have a screening room.
But are you optimistic? Because there's a big debate between, you know, streaming series and cinema in cinemas, you know, films and cinemas. How are you? Are you optimistic on cinema and the state of cinema today?
You know, my feeling is personal. This is many years that I feel that some movies are not adapted for a big screen experience. If you go to cinema and you think that you'd better stay home to see those images that are maybe a very interesting topic, but showing an image on a large screen with a great sound system requires something else. Of course, a great screenplay. So this is common. This is the base. Great actors, substance, that's common. But now there is a dimension of a show. Do I have the same pleasure listening to an opera in the very good sound system that I have at home, or to go to the opera? The answer is clear. I like the fact that I'm saying, oh, I have to get dressed. I have to go to the opera. And there is the magic of real people singing for me, for 6,000 people around. It's different. And also, you know, we're in a society where we don't talk to each other anymore. Going to a place and sharing a show is very, very important. And people are not going to abandon that. But I have the feeling that they are going to be more selective, and that they want to decide to go to cinema to see something in a better way than they would stay at home. This is the danger of superhero movies, because superhero movies are made for big cinemas. Mm-hmm. And therefore there's a lot of music, boom, 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 boom. It's a circus, but after all, it's fine to go to circus. So there's an element, you won't enjoy a superhero movie the same way on television than on a big screen. Now, the fight is to make movies with substance and with the quality of spectacular images with the content. Mm. Because, you know, I can tell you that most professionals, especially cinema owners, they understand the danger of getting their money from the same production source, which is superhero. But we've seen those films now for 10 years. They're all the same. Mm. They're fun to watch. Not for me. I get this is the best way I fall asleep. But but you know, the problem is we have to keep the more sophisticated audience, which is the best audience for cinema. They're very faithful, but they're discouraged because what they see in the program is guys with tattoos and women with silicone breast with a sword, and they save the world. Yes. In a car crash.
Here we see firefighters in your film, new film.
Yeah, but
just here lastly, Jean-Jacques Annaud, you've had a career that spans over 46 years. It's amazing. It's a very few directors, you know, that survive that long in the film industry. What is your advice? What would your advice be to young filmmakers today?
Well, by the way, it's a little more than 56 because I started when I was 19. Oh. So I started with commercials. You know, I did 400 commercials.
Yeah, I'm thinking from your first feature.
First feature, yes, yes. Yeah. Well, I don't have a clear explanation. You know, I'm just even surprised that it's happening so pleasantly. In my case, but I assume that I managed to make movies that people had pleasure to see. And the only advice is I followed my instincts. I didn't want to be trendy, you know. No, because I know être à la mode, as we say in French, is the best way to be démodé, out of fashion, 2 years later. This is what's happening with Nouvelle Vague in France, you know. It was very fashionable. And suddenly, a few years later, it became like the norm. And then now it's totally out of fashion. Even the style is out of fashion. One other thing I want to say is try to keep in mind that you're changing and the world is changing. That's the key. You have to adapt. I'm very Darwinian, you know. If the pond is drying, don't try to fight the other fish that are fighting in the mud. Get legs and cross the desert to find another pond. That's the thing, you know. To be yourself for the new period, for the new moment, for the new mood. But that is dealing with instinct. I'm not the kind of person asking marketing department, what do you think would work? Because nobody knows. You know, basically, the so-called professional in the new generation are coming from law school and all that. And what they will ask is to reproduce a movie they've liked already. So do the same as. No, we are in a creative business. Therefore, we have to be original. You know, being a so-called artist is not to copy, is to invent. Therefore, take a risk. It's very risky, you know. I remember when I suggested a project like The Bear, saying I'm going to use a real bear, the first question people would say, oh, your script is great. Who's going to play the bear? So I said, a bear? They said, a bear, who's inside the skin? Because Robert Redford would have done a great bear inside the skin. And they said, no, it's a real bear. But what language he speaks? I'd say, bear language. What is bear language? I said, arr. He said, do you understand that he's angry? Do you need the subtitle? I am angry and I'm going to kill you. No. So they didn't trust. You know, it took me a very long time. And when I did Quest for Fire with an invented language, people say, the script is great, but can we have the subtitle? I said, no, you tell me the script is great, you understood it all. Well then, why do you need a subtitle? So you know, it's dangerous, because of course, it's not easy. And after that, you have people say, oh, of course, it's obvious. It's a success because the bear is charismatic. Yeah, okay.
Very wise word here to end it. Merci pour votre temps, monsieur. Merci.
Bravo pour votre français.
Merci.
Merci.